I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey friends, Brian Santos here. This is Quarantine with the Stars on AfterBuzz TV. Today I am joined by Piera Van de Wiel, who's an incredibly talented singer and actress who's literally using her voice for good. Hey Piera, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate you having me on specifically during the time that we're in, and there are definitely other voices that could be heard today. So I'm really appreciative of your time and speaking with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much as well. We're so excited to talk to you. I know you're doing some amazing things out there. So let's kind of jump right in. I just want to talk to you first of all about how you're doing with everything that's happening in the world right now.
That's right. Well, at the moment it feels quite overwhelming with everything that's happening, and really it's a time to, well, for me, I'm trying to make myself accountable, trying to educate myself as much as I can with everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, and really giving way to giving a platform to these voices. One of my many jobs that I do, I actually write for a magazine called Hers Magazine, and yesterday I had the absolute privilege to interview Erica, who's the founder of the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network. And it was honestly amazing. We got to speak of QTPOC and how they've got together QTPOC therapists, and they want to match that into healing justice and also mental health. And the work that I'm doing with Strong with Music, my collective, which promotes the importance of music and mental health and music and social impact. It was so phenomenal to have this conversation with her yesterday to see how we can also help uplift those voices.
I love that so much. We talked a little bit before we went on air that you're in the Bahamas right now. Tell me about that.
Well, not from the Bahamas, but I actually, in the Bahamas right now. But I grew up in the Bahamas. I went there from when I was about 7 months old, and it's been a home to me, actually in the Abacos. And I'm not sure if everyone's aware, I hope they are, but Hurricane Dorian decimated the Abaco Islands on the 1st of September 2019. And I wanted to do something through my platform with Strong with Music, and also myself as a singer-songwriter, to help my friends and my family out there with humanitarian relief efforts. So I wrote a song called Come Back Home. It's the Abaco relief song. It's out on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And I've been really working on helping the Bahamian people rebuild their homes, give them water, roofs over their heads. And I came out here because I was supposed to be performing at an opening of a new school that has been used with the money that was raised. And then COVID happened, and I actually was stuck here because the borders were closed. But I'm very grateful as actually some family friends took me into their home, which I am deeply grateful for. So I wasn't alone during this time. So that's why I'm in the Bahamas and why I've been here for about 12 weeks. But it's a very special place, and I'm actually heading out to the Abacos next Wednesday, and going to be helping with distribution of food and water. So I feel like I'm in a good place to be, and somewhere that I can actually help people.
I love that so much. Pierre, I was actually going to ask how you're keeping busy during quarantine, but I feel like I got so much already. You're working, you're doing humanitarian work, you're doing such amazing things with the time that you were kind of, I don't want to say stuck with, but it kind of just fell into place and you used it in such a great way. So I love that so much. So switching gears, let's kind of talk about your story. Let's move backwards a little bit. How did you kind of get into singing and acting?
Sure. So singing has always been a part of me. I used to do competitions when I was younger, but actually I didn't find songwriting until I was 15, and I went through a personal tragedy. My best friend, she was killed in a car accident, and I really found my voice through songwriting and through my grief. And from writing music, I felt I was able to voice my grief, and it really felt quite empowering that I could use music to sort of share and tell my story, and also the story of my best friend. And that's also where I sort of started thinking about my collective Strong with Music. And then it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I actually decided to make it a company and a collective. And then action came along a little bit later. And I went to the Tisch School of the Arts, graduated 3 years ago. And then I actually got my first off-Broadway professional role from the Classical Theatre of Harlem. So I definitely have the phenomenal Ty Jones, the artistic director of the Classical Theatre of Harlem, to thank, who gave me my first role, professional role. And it was awesome. He definitely gave me a space from my voice where I could stand up on stage and work on this character. And I played Milady de Winter. From the Three Musketeers.
Oh, fun.
She's quite a fun character. She's also quite evil, actually. I was wearing like a corset, hair and a wig. But it was an amazing experience, and the show got some really fantastic press and Adelco nominations. So it was a fantastic sort of first experience. And then sort of since then, I've definitely working in creating my own material.
I love that.
Also in other short films. So it's been great.
I love that. What's been your favorite kind of acting role so far?
I'd probably say Milady de Winter. I mean,
you liked being evil?
It was fun. Yeah, in a really strange way. Like, I'm not an evil person, but just being able to play this role was fantastic, and sort of my chance as well to experience like what press are saying, and it was fun. I got to have little daggers hidden all over my dress in my corset. And we were actually performing at the Richard Rogers Amphitheatre, so it was very hot during the summer. But that was definitely my favorite role. But I've also played a punk teenager, and that's also been really fun. Yeah.
You have some screen roles as well. So was it difficult for you to make that transition from stage to screen?
I think there is definitely a transition, and it's sort of a different way of telling a story. But something that I love so much about film is that it's forever. Once a film has been made, it's there forever for you to use. And I've written 2 films that are currently circulating. You can find on IMDb, set in the 1950s. I love a good period drama.
Same here.
Yeah, I know. It's about this woman called Elizabeth, and her mother passes away, and it's sort of about her reckoning with her father and how she deals with her grief and the death of her mother. And then my other film, called Strip Clara, is set in the 19th century, and it's sort of looking into how feminism was still very much alive in the 19th century, and Clara is actually then admitted to a mental asylum for showing beliefs in feminism and acting out against her husband.
I love that. They both sound like riveting, like such a roller coaster story. So I definitely need to check them both out. I'm so excited to talk to you, Piera. Let's switch gears and talk about your music, because I know you also use your voice for good. Your song "Used" raises social awareness about domestic violence. So what was the inspiration behind that song?
Well, when I wrote the song, I mean, it's definitely an sort of emotional roller coaster of how one can feel so safe, where you let your barriers down, but only to feel used and abused and sort of taken for granted. So when I wrote this song, I definitely wanted to sort of echo that message, but I also wanted to end the song with like a lasting positive message of strength and hope that everything can be okay. So this single, Used, came out in May, and I'm actually, as you mentioned, fundraising, supporting the United Nations Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women. And really for me, it was sort of using music as a tool to bring awareness to women and girls that are suffering from violence all around the world during COVID-19. And I think everyone is aware that during this time that everyone's been asked to quarantine and isolate inside of their homes. But what we've got to think of is our homes are not always a safe place. And domestic violence and abuse has increased exponentially during this time. So I wanted to do my part in supporting victims of domestic abuse, and I felt quite strongly when I wrote this song that I wanted to connect used with this cause. And this morning I happened to be invited to the UN Women webinar on the GEA, and which is the Gender Equalities Attitudes. And they shared their study, and they were actually saying that 1 in 4 men think it's okay to hit their spouse. And that for me was, I took a breath and a stop, and I thought, okay, how are we going to change this way of thinking? And where does this come from? And I think where this comes from is that this is domestic violence is a silent but salient issue that we really need to address. So the United Nations Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women, they're really the only grant-making mechanism that's sort of dedicated to eradicating all forms of violence against women and girls. And I really wanted to go for that broad reach of where I could reach people through music. And I think that's something that I'm very passionate about, is using music to increase our awareness and to create more impact. Definitely has the power to do that, for sure. And with domestic violence, when that occurs, there is a emotional dysregulation of emotional understanding when something like this happens. And actually music acts as a soothing mechanism. So that's what I wanted to incorporate. And with Stronger with Music, and I work with music therapists and also a neuroscientist, and we're definitely looking into how music affects us physiologically and psychologically.
I love that so much. I know you're also using your platform to help another kind of community or help another cause with the LGBT community in Pride Month. Tell me about that.
Of course. So I have another song coming out on the 26th of June on Spotify, Apple Music, all platforms. It's called Dear Mrs. And this is quite it's a dangerous song, pushes boundaries a little bit, and definitely sort of comments on sort of an ultimate fantasy. But I wanted to have this, when I wrote the song, this was all about celebrating Pride and people coming together, and especially now, sort of putting that content out there when we're not able for everyone to get together. But now, I mean, with the Black Lives Matter movement, LA Pride March is happening with the movement. Also, the New York Dyke March is also doing another march called Break the Chains. So I think it's really fantastic how everyone and all minorities are coming together and standing with each other, which is just, it's phenomenal. And I'm happy that my content is going to come out and sort of be a part of this month.
I love that so much. It's amazing to see you using your platform for so much good to help so many different communities. And I can't wait to see what you have next. So what is that? Besides your 2 projects you have working on right now, what else are you working on? And what can we expect from you when quarantine is kind of officially over?
Love it. I love it. So currently, I've been wanting to educate myself more. So I've been taking a social impact and social entrepreneurship social entrepreneurship class. There we go, get my words right. With UPenn, and I've just finished that, and it was honestly, it put everything into perspective of what I've learned already from working with the United Nations. I performed with the United Nations last year on International Women's Day. I was then working with UN Women, the Aspire Artemis Foundation, Hermina Johnny, who brought me to St. Lucia to work at the 2020 Caribbean Regional STEAM and Innovation Symposia. And it's really brought me to see how I can use Stronger with Music in order to create more social impact. And the connections that I now have with the UN, thanks to Hermina Johnny, it's sort of made that possible to sort of meet more delegates and councillors and see how I can sort of integrate what I'm doing with what they're doing in their causes. So doing that class was awesome. And then I'm also doing another class, an introduction to clinical psychology, with the University of Queensland in Australia. And I really wanting to, again, to educate myself, and eventually I want to train to become a music therapist. I'm currently working with music therapists, but I want to be able to offer the service that they can offer to other people, to aid people through music and mental health, and really show how the connections work, and make that happen. I'm also writing music, writing music every day. But right now I'm currently working on an ocean conservation song. So I'm really excited about that. I've literally just started, so it's not done.
I love
But
that.
working on that.
That's amazing. Piera, I have to like go down your list. You said you work with Hearst, you sing, you act, like you're doing so many amazing things, and I can't wait to see what you have next. And I also want to know how you juggle it all, because you're literally killing it. So I love it so much. While we're waiting
That's
for your
very
next
sweet of you to
project,
say. I feel like I always have more to learn and more to do. So that's really sweet of you to say. Thank you.
of course, I'm so excited to talk to you today. I really, really appreciated your time. While we're waiting for your next projects, where can your fans find you on social media?
Oh, of course. You can find me on Instagram at Piera Van de Wiel Official. You can also follow my website as well, www.pieravandewiel.com. And that's also where you can find all the information pertaining to Strong With Music. You can also follow Strong With Music. It's at Strong With Music on Instagram. So yeah, please follow me on social media. That would be fantastic, and sort of see what I'm up to.
Yes, everybody make sure you go follow Piera. I know you're going to be absolutely obsessed with all her work that she's doing. She's doing absolutely amazing things. This has been Quarantine with the Stars with Piera Van de Wiel. I'm your host, Brian Santos. You can find me on all social platforms at the Brian Santos, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.